about the angiosperms. So in the same way, all the plants, as we have studied, the plant kingdom, especially what they possess, what kind of life cycle, that is alternation of generation. Okay, alternation of generation. What are the two generations where it get alterated? So one generation is always sporophytic. Okay, sporophytic generation, and sporophytic generation, and another generation is gametophytic generation. Actually, many students feel this is very difficult to understand the life cycles in the plant kingdom, that is alternation of generation, but it is very easy. The first thing you should remember, what are the two generations here? One is always a sporophytic generation and gametophytic generation. So like this, these two alternate with each other in their plant's life cycle. And another thing to understand, okay, these are the key words which I am telling. If someone says a sporophytic generation, this sporophytic generation is always our diploid stage. Okay, that is our 2n. Okay, complete set of chromosome, diploid stage. When we say gametophytic generation, this gametophytic generation is always haploid stage. Okay, that is N. So remember always, sporophytic generation is always diploid stage, okay, which is 2n, and gametophytic generation in plants always haploid stage, that is N, half number of chromosomes. Okay, this is what. Okay, so before starting, actually there are three types of life cycle. Before starting the three types of life cycle, we'll understand what is a sporophytic and gametophytic generation. Okay, a simple life cycle for all the three different cycles. Okay. So as I said, in a plant, the cycle starts always with sporophyte or a sporophytic generation, and we know this sporophytic generation is always what? Diploid. Okay, the sporophytic generation is always diploid, and what it does, this sporophytic generation, the sporophytes, function of sporophytes are nothing but, okay, to produce always spores. Okay, sporophyte are the one which meant to produce spores, and now the spores are, I'll write, this spores are N. Okay, we know which is the cell division where the chromosome number is reduced to 2 into N. Which is that division? That division is our meiosis. Okay, so what happens? The sporophyte of a plant undergo meiosis to produce spores. Okay, and what is the other division here, like a generation? So what we have understood, one is sporophytic, another is gametophytic generation, and what I have told, gametophytic generation is always what? And they are always haploid. Okay, they are always haploid. When what happens? What is the function of this gametophyte? Gametophyte function is to produce gametes, and these gametes are what? They are again haploid. From haploid plant body to haploid gametes production, by which, where, in which division we maintain the same number of chromosome n to n or 2n to n, 2n to 2n. Which division it is? Mitosis. Okay, and maximum students can get confused. Both this gametes and spores are similar. No, gametes and spores are totally different. One thing, the spores are produced by sporophyte. Okay, another thing is the gametophyte. The gametes are produced by gametophyte. Though they are haploid in nature, but they produced by different structures. Gametes are produced by gametophyte, spores are produced by sporophyte. Now we can join this arrow marks. This spores, what happens? They germinate and form our gametophyte. It may be sometimes a plant body. So this gametes, what happens? Gametes are of two types, right? One is a male gamete, another is female gamete. What happens? There will be, yes, fusion of these two. Okay, and what it forms? A structure called zygote. And what is the ploidy? What is the ploidy of this zygote? Our zygote is always 2n. Why it is 2n? Both male and female gametes, which are n, they get fused together to form zygote, and zygote will form our sporophyte. Hence the sporophyte are again diploid. Why? Because of this diploid zygote. Okay, and what is this procedure or the process where this fusion, it is also called as syngamy or fertilization. Okay, syngamy or fertilization. So this is what the basic thing of the life cycles. Okay, so based on this typical life cycle, okay, we'll understand there are three types of life cycle in plant kingdom. One, haplontic stage. Not stage, we can write instead of haplontic life cycle. Diplontic life cycle. Haplodiplontic life cycle. Okay, so these are the three different life cycles where the plant shows alternation of generation. Haplontic, which is the dominant character here. Haploid means, which is the haploid stage? Gametophytic. Diplontic, diploid, which is the diploid stage? Sporophytic. Haplodiplontic, both n as well as 2. Means the life cycle which is shown by the plant, haplontic life cycle, where our gametophytic generation is dominant. Diplontic life cycle, where our sporophytic generation is dominant. Haplodiplontic life cycle, where they give the equal importance for both gametophytic generation as well as sporophytic generation. Okay, so based on the percentage, we can write like this also. So based on the percentage, so in haplontic, so our gametophyte is the maximum one, sporophyte will be short-lived. Okay, in diplontic, our gametophyte is short-lived, sporophyte is long-lived. In haplodiplontic, they have got the equal percentage. So like this, if I consider this as a 10%, so 90% is gametophyte. If I consider this as a 90%, 10% is gametophyte. If here 50% sporophyte life, 50% gametophyte life. So this is what haplontic life cycle. Okay, so as the name indicates, haplontic, where It is nothing but haploid stage. So which is our haploid stage? Our gametophyte. Okay, so we'll write one by one. So which stage always a plant starts with? Sporophytic. Okay, so we can write which stage stage indicates or phase indicates sporophyte? Our zygote, right? So 2n. So what happens? This undergo meiosis and forms what? Spores. And our spores are haploid, and the spores, they produce gametophytic. Okay, gametophyte, and this is our main plant body. Okay, after this we produce gametes, which is N. Okay, so again this gametes fuse and form what? Zygote. So hence here what happens? The sporophyte is short-lived and gametophyte generation is a dominant, and they are independent. Okay, where the sporophyte generation will depend on the gametophyte food or something for shelter, everything. So what happens? So as the percentage we can tell, only 10% of life cycle they live as a sporophyte, and maximum 90% of their life cycle they live as gametophyte. So examples are like some volvox. Okay, some species of chlamydomonas, that is algae, maximum algae, they show haplontic life cycle, where which is dominant? Gametophytic generation is dominant. Okay, gametophytic generation is dominant. Okay, so next we'll start with the second life cycle. So that is our diplontic life cycle. As the name indicate here, diploid stage is dominant. Okay. Okay. So how in plants the life cycle starts? Always sporophytic, and we know sporophytes are diploid, and this sporophytes, what they does, they form spores which are haploid by the process meiosis, and this spores, what they form gametophytic generation, that is our haploid stage, and they form what? Male and female gametes, which are again haploid. This gametes fuse and form what? Zygote, and our zygote is diploid, and this zygote will give rise to sporophyte. So in this generation what happens? Our gametophytic generation is, this is very short-lived compared to sporophytic. Understood? Compared to sporophytic, our gametophytic is short-lived, and sporophytic are independent. Like example, example is what? Our gymnosperms as well as angiosperms. Both they have dominant diploid stage. So the plant body is always sporophytic. Okay, and they have short-lived, what happened? They have short-lived gametophyte. Understood? Where they produce gametes. Again, they spend their life in the sporophytic generation. So hence, the diploid stage is dominant in these two plant kingdoms. So hence, they possess diplontic life cycle. Okay. And we can write one more algae. This may be your NCERT. That is a fucus. The name called as fucus algae. They also show diploid stage as a dominant one. Diplontic. This is one neat question. Okay, fucus and algae. And the last concept, that is haplodiplontic life cycle, where they contain, yes, both haploid stage and diploid stage. They show a great alternation of generation with haplontic stage as well as diplontic stage. I'll write first, then I'll give you the examples. Okay, plant body always they start with the cycle sporophytic. Okay, which is our diploid. What they do? They form the spores. Yes, by the process meiosis, and the spores are haploid. From the spores, yes, always short-lived, yes, short-lived fused-celled plant body is formed. That is our gametophyte or gametophytic generation. Okay, which is N. So one more thing I need to tell. See, remember the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes, we have written gametophyte as prothallus, right? Remember, because of this, sometimes in some plants, the one which is showing haplodiplontic, no? Sometimes sporophyte is dominant, they are independent. Gametophyte is dominant and independent. I will tell you in which plant kingdom these two cases will arise, where they will give importance for both sporophytic and gametophytic generation, and their life cycle will lead with 50-50% of these two stages. Okay, we know after gametophytic what happens. Gametes are formed, which is haploid. What are those gametes? Male and female gametes. Okay, these gametes fuse and form what? Zygote. And the zygote is 2N. This we can write with the help of mitosis. And this zygote will give rise to sporophyte, and the case is 50-50%. Okay, so I'll tell you the examples. The first example is bryophytes, where this gametophytic generation is main plant body. Okay, means dominant. Sporophyte is short-lived and dependent. They depend on gametophyte in bryophytes. In pteridophytes, what happens? Gametophyte, we can write sporophyte is main plant body, where this gametophyte are short-lived like prothallus, and dependent on sporophyte. So these are the two examples where we see haplodiplontic life cycle. So like this, they show both the life cycle with a 50-50% manner, where some are dependent or some are independent like this. Okay. So this is about the haplodiplontic life cycle and end of the chapter, plant kingdom. Okay.